And Adrian Morley would, and Barry McDermott as well, you know, your shirt, right, am I ready, am I going? And they just couldn't wait to shoot off the line. And then they hit with everything. You felt it without feeling it, you heard it. You know, you could hear the crunch and you could hear the, oh. And I sent off Lee Radford for punching Ryan Bailey. The one thing I missed was Ryan elbowing Lee in the face. The level of abuse just went too far. That is me living the dream face. I love being that person. You know, and I miss it, but then when they show it on the big screen and it's so obvious that I've missed an elbow, so you've 3 times the amount of adrenaline, boom, 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 going through your veins. I wanted to get every decision right. I was so bothered about trying to get everything right. You just hope that mistake doesn't lead to that match winning try. To shoot your Knowsley Road, you know, all down that
offside.
offside. I used to say to my touch judges, if you come in with a soft offside penalty just because they're shouting, I'm absolutely mad. Adrian Morley, probably the hardest. If people ask me who's the best player you've ever refereed, if I penalise Leeds, Kev would always want to try to slow things down.
I've often heard refereeing be described as the best seat in the house.
Yeah.
I didn't understand that until talking to you today.
But I still had some frustration, I still had some anger, I still had some bitterness, which clouded out the pride.
Ian, I think the best place to start is for you to give us a bit of an intro of how you got into refereeing. I believe you started a little bit later than most do nowadays at the age of 30, but you know, tell us where you're from and how, what led you into the world of professional refereeing.
Well, as an Oldham Rugby League fan, growing up in Oldham, my dad, you know, Oldham Rugby League was where everybody went on a Sunday afternoon, up to the watersheddings. My dad used to lift me and my older sister over the turnstile because it were free.
Forgot about those days.
Yeah, all the turnstiles, you queue up, my dad would say, any chance of... Yeah, of course you can. But Oldham was and still is to a certain degree a rugby league town, and I followed my team, and I loved it. And then, to be honest, at school I was more of a footballer, probably because I wasn't aggressive, and I'm still not, and I wasn't hard enough. But then when I left school, I found that I still loved rugby league, obviously, but I wanted to play it. And a few of the lads that I went to school with used to play for Salem Hornets, a local amateur team. Went down there and I played with them for just short of 14 years. And it were great. The injuries, I wasn't very particularly good. But as I'm going through that, I always felt that I was one on the team that knew the rules. If any time there was a misunderstanding about what the laws of the game were, they turned to me, Ian, what was it? You know? And so I almost fell into it by accident because I broke a rib. And I thought, you know, sick to death of getting injured, statutory sick pay, didn't even pay me maintenance, you know, let alone anything else. So I thought I'll take up refereeing. And you're right, 30 was old. It wasn't old at the time, because at the time a lot of the referees they did play. They did have, you know, your Steve Presleys and Dave Campbells and one or two. They're quite, I wouldn't say decent, but you know, they played at a decent level. And then all of a sudden, when you finished playing, you went into refereeing. Where now, you know, a lot of juniors and it's almost like you get to 23, 24, 25 and it's, you know, all these young kids are coming through. So there's a balancing act between that as well, which is maybe for later on in this conversation. All of a sudden, I refereed this game, this under-14 game at Haywood. I just thought, wow, I can do this. Everything felt natural. As a player, nothing felt natural. I wasn't always in the right place. You know, I'd drop balls, I'd miss tackles. But as a referee, almost immediately, it just felt natural. It just felt like I was at the right place to see the right, you know, the knock on or the ball steal or the try being scored in the corner. And it just came easy. And then all of a sudden I thought, wow, I can do this. If I put all the effort in, I will get the rewards. As you know, when you play for a team, sometimes not everybody's pulling in the right direction, especially at amateur level. But as a referee, I thought, do you know something? I can do this for myself. The harder I work, the quicker I can progress. And it turned out that within 2 years, I was a Grade 1 referee.
Can you talk to me about that then? Just that progression from refereeing amateur sides, predominantly up north, I would guess, you know, maybe even within the Oldham area. How did you then either get picked up or get recruited into the professional ranks?
Well, there was, and there still is a progression. From being I was North West Counties Referee of the Year in the late 1996, 97. And then that got me onto the National Conference panel. And the National Conference in the late 90s was, it was competitive. There were some really good players. And I ended up being National Conference Referee here, 97, 98. And then John Holsworth, the great referee, past referee, John Holsworth, he was in charge of the Grade 2s, which was the next progression. And he ended up refereeing a Challenge Cup game where he was at, and there was a brawl in the early stage of this game, and I handled it really well. And he just promoted me to Grade 2 the following day. So there's a bit of luck as well. He was watching me at the right time, the right game. And then I was only a Grade 2 for 3 months, where they saw something in me, so academy level, A-team level. Next thing, I'm doing Bramley, when they played at Headingley in League One, and all of a sudden the rest, as they say, is history. So there is proper progression. I just went through it quicker than most at that time.
Can you remember anything from that first professional game that you refereed? Can you remember what it felt like on the leading up to it or anything like that, or was it smooth?
I can't, to be perfectly honest. The League One games in the older days, I said olden days, but I certainly remember my first Super League game, which was London Broncos against Salford in '99, and it just felt like a whirl. Everything was quicker. Physically, it was easier because there wasn't the fighting, there wasn't the cheap shots, because everybody was more disciplined. It was just the speed of thought. Everything was, and before you knew where you're at, they was over there. Like I said, A1 under 14s, with respect to A1 under 14s, it didn't quite go as quick. So I could preempt and get there before they did. But in Super League, your speed of thought, it was just... So at the end of the game, I don't think I was physically more tired in Super League, but mentally you were drained because of all the decisions and all the pros that was, that knew how to work you and knew what to say. And because I was naive and just like, I felt at times like a rabbit in the headlights. But I suppose it's a bit like the proverbial duck. On the outside, you've really got to portray yourself as calm, but on the inside, your nerves, your stomach's churning and everything, and the what-ifs, because it can be quite an insecure role. Yeah. What if I miss that? What if I do that? What if this? What if it leads to the match winning try? What happens if I never referee again? And if you're not careful, you can go down that negative spiral, and so it's very important that you stay level-headed and you don't fall in love with yourself, but also don't beat yourself up. It's a mistakes-driven game, unfortunately. Players make mistakes. Players will make between 30 and 40 minutes, 70 and 80 minutes. That's when players make mistakes because they're physically tired. So when you're physically tired, as you know, you're not stupid, your cognitive awareness goes. And it's only that little bit. It's only that, am I moving on before I've caught the ball and I drop it? They only sidestep me, and instead of getting two arms around them, I'm... and the better players, the fitter players. So that's why, going back to my original thing about if I work hard enough, I'll go up. I used to love it when we had the snow in Oldham during winter prior to the pre-season fitness test. I used to think to myself, so I used to go on the track and I'd do track sessions and I'd follow my own footsteps around the track. And my mindset was, nobody else will be doing this, so I'm gaining one. They probably were. But my thing was, if the harder I work, the more progression I'll do. And it's the same with players. The fitter players, the better players, they keep it up here for longer. So when everybody's tired in the last 5 minutes, they come through with an handoff, a nice little offload, and they put somebody in. And you just think, well, that's what they do. Yeah, but they do it better for longer. Yeah. And that's the same with the refereeing. We all make mistakes. We just make fewer and not as crucial.
I want to spend a bit of time on the Super League aspect of your period of your career. But before we kind of dedicate a block of time to that. Just if we stick to like the progression and all that kind of thing, what is it in your mind that sets a referee that's probably going to stay around, the amateur ranks, and that referee that goes up to the highest levels? What is it that's different?
I think some of it's a mentality. It's a shortcut. Some referees take shortcuts in the training, in the reviews, And the ones that really genuinely want it, they will do those track sessions in the snow. They will spend 2 hours reviewing the game. There was a... I know we're going to talk about me going back to the referees later on, but I saw 2 reviews from a League One referees, 2 referees who were trying to progress. One lad, he did such an incredible review of his performance. Chronological, very anecdotal, criticising himself, but also, and it was incredible. And then there was another review, which was almost like scribbled on back of a fag packet or a beer mat, and then he's complaining that he's not getting the same progression as the other one, even though he feels he's got the same ability. And it's a case of, if I were to show you those 2 reviews, you tell me which one's going to make and which one isn't. So it's about an attitude thing, it's about a mindset. Am I prepared to go that extra mile to progress, to improve, to listen, to learn? If I am, then there are opportunities. If I'm not, you will have seen many, many players at all levels that you think they've got it, but they're just not prepared to go the full 10 and turn. They're turning short. They're just not prepared to take that extra drive when everybody else is tired. And it is an attitude thing and a mindset. And if you've got the right attitude, the world's your oyster as a match official and as a well, to a certain degree as a player, but I think you need a bit more as a player.
It might be quite reassuring for some people, because I think some people might, anything at an elite level, you sort of think, this boils down to genetics, or it's, I've been born into the right family, or I've got the right connections, or I'm just naturally good at
location either.
Yeah, exactly. Mm-hmm. What you're saying, though, or what I'm picking up on, is that, first of all, it's a decision that they want to be a pro referee, and then it's an application of effort. So that must be quite reassuring for people.
Yeah, because you talk about being out of the heartlands. I know Cymru is a heartland, but you Gareth Ure and 1 or 2 of those who come from Whitehaven, they go from Whitehaven to Leeds or to Wigan every Tuesday to train for an hour and a half.
Yeah,
that's a long round trip.
Big
that's
effort.
That's probably further than it is from Wolverhampton to there. So that is a big effort, just to run round a track with your peers. But it's just about the presence of being there, an attitude thing. Ashley Klein, who is the most decorated match official in our lifetime, he lived in London, and he would get the National Express coach up to Wigan to train, and then he'd fall asleep in it overnight to get home. Just for an hour and a half training at Wigan, be with his peers and watch a video review. That was an attitude thing, and that's why somebody like Ashley Klein has stayed at the top forever. Because if he's prepared, because the amount of people that go, well, I'm going to get on a National Express coach for 4 hours to do an hour and a half training, and then 6 hours on the way home overnight, get back in the morning, and then have to do some work. No chance. And he did it because of an attitude thing. So, you reap your rewards.
And what is the structure for a referee? Like, I know you've sort of you mentioned how you got picked up and all the rest of it. If you can go through the sort of levels and the pathway. Is there a direct pathway, or is it?
Yeah, absolutely. You go on a course. Back in my day, you just went to your local referee society, sat the exam, passed it, and then you got to the mercy of the appointments officers.
Right.
There's a bit more to it now. You have a full weekend course, and then you get put into that system. And you'll still go to your local societies, and the appointments officer, they'll give you a set. You can't referee over your age. So if you're 15-year-old, you can only do under 14s down. And then hopefully people will watch. Local assessors will come and watch, and they'll say, hey, they've got something about them. And if they are old enough, why don't you just try them at that level? Why don't you just try them at a bit of a tougher game? And then hopefully they'll progress to national conference. And then hopefully from that they'll go on to the academy and the old grade 2 list, where they'll do academy and alliance type rugby, and then League One rugby, and then Championship, and then ultimately Super League. Not everybody wants to be a Super League ref.
Yeah.
People just like the local leagues. People just like turning up and doing your under 14s, under 15s, and that's fantastic. Every game needs servicing. Not everybody will promote to Super League as players. Doesn't mean to say they don't get an immense amount of enjoyment out of it. So, but there is a real good pathway. And there's some good coaches as you go through that pathway. Ben Thaler now has dropped down from being a full-time ref, and he's in that coaching. And now Bob Connolly, for those who might not know, Bob and John Connolly were 2 outstanding Super League refs. back in the day, and Bob's now part of that development to try to get the next, because they're not knocking the door down to become referees for the obvious reasons, to be honest. It's a thankless job, and especially now with social media. You know, the social media, you know, we talked about Liam Moore earlier on. Well, you won't meet a nicer lad, you know, and when his wife were pregnant, you know, your baby dies. Where on earth are we coming from? What on earth is it that I love social media, but I hate it and all with the same amount of passion, because what gives somebody the right to criticise somebody to that degree? You know, what is going on? Yeah, we miss a forward pass. You know, it's not life or death. We don't want to do it. Players don't want to miss tackles, but they do. Coaches don't want to make the wrong substitutes, but they do. They don't want to pick the wrong team, but they do. You know, and that is professional sport and amateur sport. You know, but ultimately, it is sport. You know, it's a great sport, but ultimately, it is sport. It ain't life or death.
So you had 272 Super League appearances. You know, as a match official, you must have a few stories there, or certainly players that you either loved refereeing or hated, you know, in equal measure.
Well, I think at some point we're going to talk about my book. But my book is called My Final Whistle because, and I won't give everything away, but it was my last ever game, Hull FC versus Leeds Rhinos, September 2010. And I sent off Lee Radford for punching Ryan Bailey. The one thing I missed was Ryan elbowing Lee in the face. And it just was... it was just mad. It was just absolutely crazy. And because of it, the level of abuse just went too far. And I thought, I don't need this. And it just all culminated with Stuart offering me a chance to go on the coaching staff. And it was just a perfect storm. And I miss it. It was the worst decision I ever made. That, believe it or not, that is me living the dream phase. I love being that person. You know, and I miss it. However, having wrote the book, you know, there's a lot of closure, and I'm very proud of what I achieved as a referee. Because I always thought achievement, to be a successful referee, you have to referee a grand final or a Challenge Cup final. You can still be incredibly successful without refereeing the pinnacle. It depends on what your ambitions are.
You mentioned closure, but there's a bit of that, being able to process that, those events and that kind of, you know, how you measure success. Has that come a little bit with age now, has it?
Oh, absolutely. Oh, without a shadow of a doubt. Life is a roller coaster, and sometimes it's not the easiest. And hindsight and one thing and another, and if I had a chance to do that, I wouldn't have done it. But the history is in the past, you know, and it's about how we learn from it. But I still had some frustration. I still had some anger. I still had some bitterness, which clouded out the pride and the love and the respect that I had for the game. So by writing my book, it's turned it on its head, if you like. You know, very cathartic. You know, I've come to terms with the things that I didn't do because I retired, and focused on the things that I did do as a referee, and I'm very proud of what I did. And also the journey that I've done now through State of Mind Sport with Jimmy Gittins, and what I do, you know, as a job now, meeting some incredibly inspiring people. Maybe if I hadn't retired at that point, I wouldn't be at this point. Maybe if I'd have carried on, I'd have just gone on too long, and I'd have just drifted off into the backgrounds, and you know. So, you know, life is about grabbing opportunities. But also, again, like I said before about being a referee, don't beat yourself up if you make the wrong choice, because the wrong choice, not necessarily the wrong choice, it's just maybe a choice that you won't make if you had the opportunity to do it again. And it's quite reflective and quite cathartic, and I feel really calm. I've lost that fist in my stomach of the anger of not being able to referee another game. That's gone.
And of course, I mean, many people will remember that incident. I do. I remember it. You know, it's clear as day. But obviously, this was at a time where there perhaps weren't as many cameras, or certainly as much footage captured. I don't know if you had the communications that they have nowadays. You know, the fourth, the fifth. Oh, there's, you know, so many different things going on there, aren't there? So you could say that.
Well, I can tell you exactly how it was. There were the same amount of cameras than there are now, maybe one or two more now, but you'd have got enough footage. But the policy at the time was, I don't know whether you probably will remember. Do you remember Leeds and Bradford at Magic Weekend?
Yes, we talk about it all the time.
Oh, well,
all the time.
I won't
Who's
bring
Brad?
it up.
I'm Leeds.
That still hurts me.
Yeah.
Brian Bailey again.
At the time, the video ref could actually come in on live play.
Yeah.
So if they thought the referee had missed a clear knock on, they could. Now, it was frowned upon, but it still happened. And that game absolutely epitomised why. Gans got the decision right. Ashley Klein come in, overturned the decision, kick at goal, then it just became all carnage. So we went to a place where the video ref cannot give any input on either foul play, ball steals, knock on. It's just purely about tries, goal line dropouts. So when that incident between Lee Radford and Ryan Bailey happened, Thierry Alibert was my video ref. He couldn't give me any input on foul play. So it was about what me and my touch judges saw in that incident live. I didn't see the elbow. I only saw the punch. But then when they show it on the big screen and it's so obvious that I've missed an elbow, you know, that's where it's like, well, why can't the video ref help you? And that's where we've got to now. I'm a bit, you know, the video ref elastic band, I'm just mindful that we don't stretch it too far.
Yeah, we're aware of that.
Yeah. So the referee has to be the arbiter, but there are things that he can't see. And the things that there's so much going on, it is incredible. So things you do need help with. Nowadays, if that incident have happened, I'd have just gone, time off. Just check what's happened. Yeah, Ryan Bailey's elbowed him. Lee Radford's punched him in retaliation. That's a penalty going that way. Eagles, they both get sent off. Whew. And then they show it on big screen, and Eddie Hemmings and Steve O at the time or whoever, you know, they say, oh, great decision from Ian Smith, got that right. From help from the video ref. But at the time, didn't have that.
So I suppose that now's probably the perfect time to say, well, they're bringing the Captain's Challenge in 2025. I'm assuming you're all for that and you think it's a positive move because it puts a bit of onus back onto the captain of the team, really.
It does. It does. There's an issue around the game at the moment with how long a game lasts.
Yeah.
You know, from the kick-off to the end of the half-time and the end. And if we're not careful, the challenges, if they're successful, will drag it out another 2 minutes and another 3 minutes. And all of a sudden, you'll kick off at 8 o'clock. You won't finish half-time till, you know, you won't come back till 9:10. And all of a sudden, we're going into over 2.25 hours for a game of rugby league. It also put a little bit of onus on the captain. You know, if they say, come on, it's a knock-on. Oh, do you want to challenge that? No. Oh, well, maybe you're not true to your convictions then. If you think I've got it wrong, then challenge it. You know, 10 seconds, is it the winger? You know, by the time he's run over to a scrum on the other side, you know, who is the captain? Yeah, I know we know who the captain is, but so there's a time element, the quality of footage. You know, do we have as many cameras as the NRL? Will we be able to get the footage as quick as possible? You know, so does that mean, is it inconclusive? So they keep the challenge? You know, so there are things for it, but hopefully it will show that the referee gets it right more often than we think. But also for the odd howler that the referee does clearly miss something, there's an opportunity for the captain to say, hey, I'm sorry, mate, I'm going to challenge that, you've got it wrong. And it turns out to be the right result. But again, just be careful, that elastic band.
Yeah. I'd like to go back to the sort of beginning of your sort of professional career. Was there ever a time where you refereed a game and you thought, you went back to the changing room after you thought, I've really got that wrong? And how did you overcome it to carry on, you know, your resilience? Is there a game that sort of stands out?
Probably nearly every game. You know, because let's just look at the physicality and the mentality of a referee. We had heart rate monitors. So I would run between 10.5, 11 kilometres, you know, without having to make decisions.
Yeah.
And you've roughly between 16 and 20,000 judgments to make in a game with markers, all the passes, all the 2 and 3 men in a collision, the 10 metres, all this. So you've so many things to process. So my heart rate would average at 155 beats a minute. So from minute 1 to minute 80, my average heart rate was 155 beats a minute. Max out at 178. Kick the game off at 134. My resting heart rate normally is low 50s because of the training that I did. So when you just think of the physicality, you've 3 times the amount of adrenaline, boom, 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 going through your veins and all that adrenaline that it gives. And then you miss a forward pass or a knock-on in the last minute, and that amplifies itself. because it might be the key decision. Now, I was incredibly critical of myself. I would go home and I'd watch the game either on Sky or when we got the DVD, as it was, or the VHS, depending on how old we are. I wanted to get every decision right. I was so bothered about trying to get everything right. But the nature of it is you do make mistakes. You just hope that mistake doesn't lead to that match winning try, doesn't lead to the outcome of the game, because then the consequences are far more than if you've missed a knock on, but then from the first scrum they've knocked on, and you go, oh, thank God for that, Yeah. But when you've missed a knock on, and then from that or whatever from that scrum they go through and score you, and it's a 4-point ball game, you after coming off, you sign your change room, you go, I'm going to cop it on Monday or Tuesday, and you just, I was quite an insecure ref, so I probably beat myself up more than I would do now, because I think you realise that, there are mistakes in all of us. It's just trying. The best referees make less mistakes, and they tend to be fewer critical errors. When I review the referees now, you'll say, you've got that wrong, and from it, nothing happens. And sometimes they're a bit lucky. And then when you just get a few games where luck's not going with you, every time you make an error, bang, they score, and it becomes, can't I just make an error where there's no consequence, please?
Yeah. Did you have like a persona or a style of refereeing that suited you, that you kind of wanted to?
My voice and the loudness of my voice. I remember, and I have wrote about it in the book, so I won't tell you everything, but my first Sky game was Castleford versus Warrington, and I think Greg McCallum had teed up Eddie and Steve-O to be really nice to me. I was the new kid on the block in Super League, and I was loud. I was one that move, go, boo, very,
I think I remember,
very loud, and I refereed the game pretty well, especially for my first Sky game, but not better than a lot of the other refs. But then when I get home, as I lived with my mum and dad at the time, and my dad said, "Oh God, you were brilliant, you were superb. You want to hear what Eddie and Steve have been saying about you?" And I played it, and it was just so over the top. I thought Greg McCallum must have got to him and said, "Look, let's him, well done to Ian Smith tonight. What a superb performance from this referee, And I'm thinking, yeah, it was good, but it wasn't great. But again,
pressure on for next game then.
But the ironic thing was, when I went to training, when I played golf, when I met anybody, they'd say, "Oh, you were brilliant last Friday. Were you superb?" Because a lot of fans, might sound stupid this, but they watch with their ears and not with their eyes. So when they listen to a commentator saying, "Oh, you got that," or a pundit or a professional or an expert saying, "The referee's got that wrong," just put your fingers in your ears and watch for yourself, and you decide for yourself on your knowledge what the decision should be. If you're not sure, boom, then listen to the experts. But sometimes that was just a perfect way of me thinking, fans just watch with their ears. They just listen to what the commentators say, what the experts say, rather than form your own opinion.
I think that works both ways, though, doesn't it? Because likewise, on the pitch, on the biggest stage, you could have 20,000 people that are, offside, you know what I mean? And you too have got to cancel out those external factors and focus on what you've seen yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. I never refereed at the new St Helens ground, but I can assure you, Knowsley Road, all down that
offside.
offside. I used to say to my touch judges, if you come in with a soft offside penalty just because they're shouting, absolutely, man. It's still my opportunity, but you'd work. I found that I'd work even harder when you heard offside. I'd work even harder along the 10. I'd try and get back to all the players, because, the last thing I wanted were offside. And you go, "Oh, there I go. I've obliged." And you're almost like waving to them. Yeah, I've done what you said. Because the one thing I hated were crowd penalties,
Yeah. Do they happen? I mean, do they happen, do they?
Oh, I think
without calling anyone out and all that. But
I think subconsciously, if you keep hearing it, you might be more alert to it. You might think, but... you had London Broncos and Catalan coaches always saying, "We never get any penalties." You know why? Because we don't take any away fans. So you never get all that offside, because they're not there. Yeah. But when you have a big vociferous, if that's the right word, home crowd, and they're all on your back and holding down, you're almost like, is it holding down or is it? So it's about trying to get rid of that external noise. And I've seen a different way of style now with the referees. The referees now, for me, even though I was loud, for me it was less is more. But now when you listen to the refs, Mike, or the refs now, my God, they're commentating on everything. Lead runner gone through, pass around the back, play on, and they're almost commentating. And I even said to him, to Liam and Chris, who were the best two, and Jack Smith as well, who were outstanding at that, I said, does it not put you off commentating? Because that wasn't my style. And they said, no, I need it. I need to go through all the chronological. And they don't just go through it in the mind, they verbalise it.
Yeah.
He's gone through round the back, play on, so that they're almost commentating on their own performance for 80 minutes. Now, when you bear in mind you run 11 kilometres as well, that's some fitness. So styles maybe have changed, but you still got to set a good 10. You still got to know what a good ruck is. You still got to know when players are coming off. You still got to know when they square. You still got to know what a pass is. You've still got to run 11 kilometres. You've still got to verbalise to players as well as to yourself what's happening to try to prevent players from infringing. It's about prevention rather than cure.
Yeah.
If there's a borderline one there, if I can get to that player and say, look, hey, you were borderline last time, especially to scrum, to stoppage, because that's when you've got the 12 players in the pack, the 2 scrum halves, you've got the 14 players that are probably going to cause the most problem. If you can get your messages out then, it can save you a whole heap of trouble further down the line.
I mean, you mentioned Lee Radford and Ryan Bailey, like fundamental in calling it a day on your career. 2, well-renowned enforcers in the world of rugby league and in the Super League era. Who else can you remember? Or was you a little bit wary of when you're kind of stepping out onto the pitch?
Not necessarily wary of, but Adrian Morley, probably the hardest. And he were great, Moss, because as a referee, for those who don't know what A and B defenders are, where they play the ball is, the A defenders are one nearest to the marker, the B defenders C and D.
Yeah.
So as a referee, especially coming out of yardage, so coming away from their own goal line, I'd stand between A and B. Adrian Morley would, and Barry McDermott as well, they'd generally be at A or B. So they'd be like tugging at your shirt. Right, am I ready? Am I going? And they just couldn't wait to shoot off the line. And then they hit with everything. And the beauty about being a referee is, you felt it without feeling it. You heard it. You could hear the crunch and you could hear the, and then they'd jump up and they'd play it and he'd come back and he'd be, and because I was a talker and players love talking to me and getting the information from me. Am I all right here? Keep talking here. The fine line is that if you talk too much and then they go, he's just a talker, this fella. He ain't going to penalise us. And then that 2 inches offside becomes 6 inches, become 8 inches, become 10, become back foot, and all of a sudden you've lost it.
Yeah.
So it's a fine line between going penalty or hey, I'll talk to you all day. However, you've got to work with me. I'm not just saying give us a yard all game. If you don't give me the yard the second time, I'm going to penalise you. So it's entirely up to you, and that's the balance between being a good, there's no penalties in that game. What a great performance by the referee. Well, he might have let 8 second play the balls. He might let everybody stand in front. So just by having no penalties doesn't mean to say the referee's had a good game. Or even maybe the referees give 20 penalties. Maybe he's gone in too high, too hard, too early. And for consistency, he's got to keep that going. So again, when the referee's setting the game up, what I do is when I'm coaching a ref now, I'll record when I meet up with them. The first set, I don't record, but I'll show them the first set of each. What are you trying to do? What's your vocab? How are you speaking to him? You've a guy there that's fractionally in front of you. You've not said anything to him. Are you just waiting for your touch judges, or are you just going to penalise him? What's your action? So that we can get an outcome. The outcome might be words. The outcome might be a penalty. The outcome might be whatever.
We spoke about a couple of players there, but I'm interested to know which players really try to sort of play the referee during a game,
and how they did it.
Yeah, them little intricacies.
If people ask me who's the best player you've ever refereed, now I was lucky enough to referee Alan Langer at Warrington, and I've refereed Stacey Jones and 1 or 2 others. But the best player I've ever refereed was Paul Sculthorpe, 2-time man of steel, MBE, brilliant bloke, but what a great ref. But he's from my town in Oldham, isn't he? So there'd be times where I'd be pulling him out as St Helens captain, And he'd be saying, Ian, come on, we're from Oldham, come on. You know, I'm saying, oh, yeah, so I'll spoil my integrity just because we come from the same town. But you could have that banter, you know, come on. And like Kevin Sinfield, another great Oldham player. You know, Kev, if I penalised Leeds, Kev would always want to try to slow things down. Just get an extra 5 or 10 seconds to give the defence a chance to get set, have a breather because they're defending. So a lot of the time, if I give a penalty against Leeds, he'd be jogging out to say, Ian, hey, what's that for? You know, even though my signal was obvious. So I used to, when we were wired up to the touch judges, I used to say to my touch judges, if Kevin's jogging towards me for an explanation decision, if it's an obvious one, just give me, you know, because if I was given the penalty that way, the Leeds defenders would be behind me.
Yeah.
And so every now and again, they said, Kevin's on his way. And I'd say, come on, hurry up. And I'd try and run off before he got to me, you know, because it was obvious. But it was just a great tactic to try to slow things down, to bring it back on their own pace. The last thing an attacking team wants, if there's a penalty near the line, is to go, time off. Just bring the captain
bring
out.
Sir Kev up.
Yeah, bring Sir Kev out. Yeah, you know, you've this and the other, and then he'd come back with a question that you'd answer, and all of a sudden, 45 seconds later, the defence is set, they've had a breather, and the attacking team going, hang on a minute, they infringed, and now we're being almost penalised, you know. So,
do you know when you think back to Leeds though, watching Leeds, it was brilliant at Kevin Sinfield. Right? As you mentioned that, then I'm thinking. Yeah, you know how amount of times he did that?
Yeah. And a lot of people say, oh, he's telling the referee what to do. No, he's getting a 15, 20-second breather for his troops.
Yeah.
You know, and it's still, you know, we talk about the little 1%ers, just little subtle things that the greats see. You know, you watch them go through a gap and you just think that gap wasn't there. But they just see it so quicker. And the referees, they see what's happening before the others. Not necessarily that the decision-making is any better. They just preempt it and they just see, and they can just see how the game's panning out, and all of a sudden they're in front of the curve, because as a referee, 90% of it is reactive. You know, I don't know somebody's going to go high, but if I get the sense that they're getting a bit agitated, you know, I need to calm them down, because it is a testosterone-fueled sport. You know, we talked about Adrian Boyle. You know, there'd be times when Moz would fly off the line, and he'd go high. And if we were coming out of yardage, the last thing I want them was to give a quick penalty, kick it to touch on the 30, and Moz still up here. So there'd be times then where you would go time off. You would slow it down, because I was slowing it down to my level to give him chance for the red mist, not to get a breather. So again, there's so many different nuances as to why you take a breather. But it's got to be done on the referee's terms and not the player's terms. But because it's cat and mouse, they want it all under their terms. Well, no. I've got the whistle, you know, and I don't mean it's a power thing, but, you know, you do what you do and let me control what I can control. But players don't always let you control what they can control, because some of them are just mercurial geniuses.
I've often heard refereeing be described as the best seat in the house.
Yeah.
I didn't understand that until talking to you today. I get it today. You know, when you're about like, you know, Barry Mack smashing into people. Another moment that was quite iconic in the world of the Super League, and that you was present at, was the Terry Newton Sean Long incident. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, in the research for my book, I was going through, but I can't actually remember what game it was. But I know it was a Wigan Saints derby at DW, 25,000 there, and Saints were grand final winners. But Saints Wigan, it doesn't matter whether they top two or bottom two. It was just fantastic, and you just got so many just great players from either side. You know, we could go through and name them all, and it was just a who's who of rugby league. And so Sean Long, you know, in them days, you did take the line on. Nowadays, you can take the line on, but you know that you're going to get pushed, get whiplash. It's a penalty. You're not going to get hit like you did. So halfbacks were a little bit worried about how close to the line. Well, the defenders, if they got a chance, they would have a go, because then next time I'll pass it a bit earlier. It gives the defence time to map off, and it's a lot easier. So I'm following the ball. Sean passes a wide one, I think, to Scully or whoever. And so I follow the ball, and I hear this big ooh in the background. Turn round. Sean Long like that. Terry just like tootling off. Again, no video ref. Nowadays, time off. Yeah. He probably won't do it now, but time off. You know, those types of incidents won't happen now, because in those days you could give them a bit after the ball. Time off, just have a look. Yeah, ball's long gone. Teenagers come through, absolutely flatten. Sean Long, red card. Didn't see it. Touch judge didn't see it. Sean Long goes off with a broken jaw. Put it on report, which we did a lot at the time. And Ted stays on. God bless him. Absolutely fantastic player, but wish he was still around. But he weren't always easy. Was Tez? He you could just see the passion, especially against Saints.
Yeah.
They just wanted to win. He was just a winner and an aggressive winner. So bless him. Wish he was here.
Just spoke about Wigan Saints derby. Then was there any games that you wanted to get? You know, when the fixtures came out each week, you were like, I hope I get that one, or I hope I don't get that one. You know.
No, the Wigan Saints. I also did quite a lot of the Wigan Warrington derbies. You know, around the time where Warrington just couldn't beat Saints. You know, I remember refereeing one on Sky, and Warrington were winning all the way through, and literally last play of the game, Kieran Cunningham, dummies, they all fall for it, and he dives through, scores, throws the ball up, he's in front of all Warrington crowd, and he's like that, and they're all giving him belters, you know, and they were great atmospheres, outstanding players. Oh my God, the skill set of those players were just, and you're right about saying the best seat in the house. You'd follow the ball along, and you knew there were going to be a drop off and come through this massive gap, and the player just saw it come through. And like you say, it was just an absolute honour and a pleasure. And at times, you know, because I'm a big rugby league fan, at times you really wanted to just put your whistle in your pocket and go, start giving a round of applause and go, hey, come on everybody, you know.
Yeah.
But obviously you had a job to do. But there'd be times where, because I think a football referee got in trouble because he played a great advantage and they scored and he went, yes. But there'd be times where you go, oh, how good were that? You know, but we can't.
So it wasn't always sort of sunshine and roses, and obviously there's this. You talk about this incident where the comebacks just got way out of hand. I believe you got escorted from the ground, didn't you, that day?
Yeah.
I mean, what is your what was going on within the RFL, within the referee world? Where, I mean, did you feel supported at that incident?
I wouldn't say we didn't feel supported, because Stuart Cummins, who was a boss at the time, you know, we had psychologists, and he. You know, he was very mindful of the abuse. However, I think the culture within the game was that as soon as you put that uniform on, as soon as you pick up that whistle, you should expect and accept abuse, because that's what you put yourself up there for. Never accept abuse of any kind, regardless of what uniform. But the culture was that I want my team to win, and because of you, the referee, my team hasn't won. So I'm going to let you know about it. And people will say, well, it's passion. Oh, look, I'm incredibly passionate about my sport. I love my sport. The difference between being passionate and abusive. You know, I review referees. I'm critical of referees if they make mistakes. I also understand that they don't mean to make a mistake. Have you made a mistake because you're in the wrong position? Have you made a mistake because you've not moved on from the last incident and you're still carrying it on? You're still thinking about it? You know, or are you just not good enough? You know, are there too many mistakes? But no referee goes out to want one team to win more than another. Couldn't care less. Absolutely could not care less. But people put too much onus on the referee for, I mean, the outcome of the game in their hands. No, it's 1,100 passes. If you keep dropping that ball, the referee, you know, have no burden, burden on the game. You know, it's all about the players. But people think that with this big I am and it's about us. It's not. I'd love to have no penalties in a game, but everybody's doing what they're doing. But if your players aren't doing what they're doing, then I had to give 34 penalties once in a Wigan versus Sheffield game in Super League. I got absolutely pilloried. John Keir was at Sheffield at the time. I can't think of the Wigan coach. But it needed 34 penalties. They wouldn't listen, whether they had no respect for me or whether I set the bar a bit too high, you know, at the time I couldn't go back. But they weren't listening. The idea of a penalty is that players will modify their behaviour. If they don't modify their behaviour, is that my fault or is that the player's fault? The players will say it's my fault, the fans, the coaches will say it's my fault. The only people that don't think it's my fault or our fault is the match officials.
Yeah.
And that's the beauty. You know, even now I've got butterflies, I've got goosebumps talking about it because of how passionate I am about match officialdom and being a match official. You know, but it's a great career. You know, if people don't want to play, or don't want to just watch, join in. It's incredible.
We can skip a few levels here, but I think it's probably a nice time to bring it in. You are back working with the RFL now, and you're part of the referee review panel. I think you spoke to me off air, but just talk us through what goes on a Monday morning or whatever day, you know, when they review it, and give you a little bit of an insight into the review panel.
Yeah, look, I wasn't planning on going back to work for the RFL. I had to change the ending of my book because I vowed I'd never work for him again. But then Phil Bentham, Phil was part of the six that they made full time in 2006. I refereed with Phil for many years. Got a lot of respect for him. Play golf with him. Good friend.
Is he any good at golf?
Yeah, I think he's off 10 now. So I'm off 5.9, so I just pip him on that. And when he went working for the Premier League match officials as a VAR coach, communication coach. And then when Gans vacated his post, Phil was interviewed for the job. And when he got the job, he said, "Would you like to come on my coaching staff?" And because I love what I do with State of Mind and Jimmy Gittins, I'm not coming back full time. I love what I do. So he said, "Well, why don't you come back as a consultant and give me one referee, one game a week," which I do, along with James Child, another outstanding referee, and Matt Thomas, an ex-Super League ref. So he'll appoint me to a game at the weekend. So whoever the ref is, 1 or 2 days before the game, I'll speak to the referee, phone him up, ask him his thoughts on the game.
Yeah.
Who he thinks the protagonist, what's his outcome, and what does he want? How's he going to set it up? What is he going down the whistle route? Is he going down the verbalised route? Which players will give him problems? Just to try to not build it up, but just give him that thought process of how things may pan out.
Setting him up.
Just setting it up. Then I'll watch the game on telly, because now all six are on telly. I'll have my pad and I'll make notes as I'm going through, chronological. The referee will do a full review of the game, and then we have what's called Opta Pro Rugby, where the game will be on, and I'll put together a little montage of clips. It might be a specific area. I might just think the reason why his rucks are poor is because his tens were poor, so players were off the line early. So the first receiver never got the opportunity to do anything. So it's not necessarily the rucks and that first collision that was a problem. It was his policing of his tens. So I'll watch it on the wide angle. So I'll listen to his vocab, and I'll see where he stands and how he's controlling the 10 metres. And then I'll set up a teams meeting with him. What's convenient. If it's a Thursday, Friday game, it'll be Sunday morning. And we'll sit together for an hour and a half, 2 hours, and we'll discuss what he thought about the game, what I think about his performance, the clips. We'll discuss the clips. And then I'll report that back to Phil and the full-time coaching staff. And then on the Tuesday, we have a group review.
Yeah.
Where they're based at the Etihad campus. And if I'm not working in my day job, I'll go in and we'll discuss the theme from the weekend. So it's fantastic. I've really loved being back. I didn't think I'd enjoy it as much as I have done. And I didn't realise I missed being that person as much as I have done as well, but c'est la vie.
And what are their meetings like? Do they get a bit heated sometimes?
They can do.
Do they, they're falling out with each other or disagreeing, I suppose?
Disagreeing. I think in the past, when we had some real big characters, I think the falling out was probably more prevalent. But no, it's disagreement.
Yeah, who did you have in your group?
Well, they made 6 of us full time. So the 6 that were full time were Richard Silverwood, Steve Ganson, Ashley Klein, Ben Thaler, myself, and Phil Bentham.
All big characters.
Not all big characters, but Richard, Gans, and Ash were big characters. Yeah, and they got the majority of the finals. So there was a real serious pecking order because they were good. So they would. Try to manipulate some of the group meetings to get the outcome for themselves. They could be heated. But now, I wouldn't say they're heated. there is disagreements, especially on obstructions. Does the league go through? Does it go around the back? Should they be doing that? Especially on foul play, is it with force? Is it not with force? Was first contact on the shoulder? Was it not? I think that's a yellow. I think it's a red. I think it's just a penalty. I think so there's always subjectivity, and as referees we can be defensive, so we see it as I'm right first, but to be honest, there's such an honest group. The integrity of a department tends to go off the person in charge, and Phil's the most honest and has incredible integrity and loyalty, and that is being shown back by the guys now. They work incredibly hard. And they're very honest about the performance. If they make a mistake, they'll put their hand up, rather than say, well, actually, no, it was me touch judge who gave me the wrong information, because you can hear and see everything. Especially now there's at least 10 cameras at each game. You can't hide, so you might as well be honest and just own up to your mistakes. It's a mistake-driven environment, unfortunately. But just reduce them and be honest with them. If you make a mistake, there are going to be consequences, because you can't keep making mistakes. And you get, but the best ones will make fewer, and they'll own them, and then they'll say, well, next time. So if that happens again, what are you going to do next time? I'm going to deal with it this way. That's a coaching point. There's no point in putting all miss knock-ons on. We know what, if you don't know what a miss knock-on is, or a miss forward pass in Super League, then you should be back in Haywood under 14s. So you don't need to go through those. It's just about how they set the game up, how they speak to players. What is a good ruck? What is a poor ruck? Why did you miss that forward pass? Why did you miss? Did you overread it and you didn't see the lead hit the sliding defender? So just hold back a little bit, let it go in front of you rather than overchase it. A good fullback, you'll see a fullback, when they drop off back inside, they're almost coming to him, rather than overreading it, and then it goes back right under the post. And you can see it in the players, and you can also see it in the referees.
So I'd like to know a little bit more about State of Mind. I think it's right that we mention the great work that you do as a charity, and talk to us about your role there and the kind of day-to-day things that you get involved with.
I think maybe a good place to start was why was it set up, and what point in time it was set up as well.
Yeah, State of Mind started off the back of the tragic suicide of Terry Newton, who we spoke about earlier on. Terry, for whatever reason, took his own life. And back in 2010, and probably to a certain degree, but definitely to a lesser degree now, it was a case of, you're an alpha male, you're a rugby league player, you beat your chest, you should be everything to everything. You don't want to talk about your feelings and emotions.
Yeah.
Alpha males don't have mental health issues. Alpha males don't have insecurities. Alpha males don't have worries and this and the other. So there wasn't anything in place. And then when Tez unfortunately took his own life, two guys who from the NHS, Dr. Phil Cooper and Malcolm Ray, big rugby league fans, eminent in the field of mental health, decided to try to find out or put something in place for players like Terry. And that's how the charity started. And they went all around to all the Super League clubs. And then I joined in 2017. And at the time, there were four main presenters. So there was Danny Sculthorpe, Paul's brother. So Danny Sculthorpe and Phil Vivers. So they worked together as a pair. And me and Jimmy Gittins worked together as a pair. Jimmy's the most incredible bloke I've ever met. Broke his neck playing rugby league for Charleston Rovers 22 years ago. He was told he'd never sit up, feed himself, walk, have children, and he's done all that. He's quadriplegic in a wheelchair, and me and Jimmy travel the country giving talks about the importance of looking out for your well-being. All commercial sector, public sector, private sector, schools, colleges, universities, prisons. There isn't a place where we don't go. And it's very humbling and very fulfilling. We talk and we see and we listen to people who have some incredible stories. And we're not preachers. I'm not a counsellor. I'm not an expert. We just go out and we try and keep it real, and we try and create a culture in any environment, organisation, where a culture of openness and honesty. And something, if something's not quite right, just talk about it. Talk it through. Let's find a solution rather than just keep it in this dark place. And I think we should celebrate mental health. We celebrate physical health. When we're in good shape, it's, hey, look at me, I'm fantastic. But when we're in a good place emotionally, mentally, we never celebrate it. as soon as somebody mentions mental health, we'll like run for the hills because it's only seen as a taboo. It's seen as a stigma. It's seen as a word we can't talk about. But we never see physical health seen in that negative way. So let's promote good mental health. And like physical health, it fluctuates. There'll be certain instances in our life that do give you a kick in emotionally. And quite rightly they should, because it's painful. But like physical pain, it don't last forever. With the right help, the right support. And I just love working for this charity. I'm incredibly passionate about it. They give me an opportunity, 2017, to do what I do now. And I'll always be eternally grateful. And that's why 50% of my profits are going to State of Mind, because of what they gave me and still give me. And I hope I'm repaying their faith in me as a presenter.
Talk me through the day job then. If it's you're working for the charity, what are you doing on a sort of week to week basis?
Well, we're self-employed. The charity don't employ anybody, so we're tasked with generating our own commercial partners.
Right.
So we do Network Rail's mental health awareness sessions. We do the 2-day mental health first aid training, which will qualify. We do a things called How to Start a Conversation for line managers. So in a lot of big organisations. Line managers, they might see these things, but they don't always know how to start a conversation. So it's just about breaking down the stigma and looking for signs and symptoms. So an organisation or a sports club will get us in and we'll take a PowerPoint presentation. Like I said, it might be 1 hour. We might do 2 or 3 in the day, or it might be a 4-hour how to start a conversation, or it might be a 2-day course.
Yeah.
So we'll set our diaries up ourselves, me and Jimmy. And the charity give us a remit of costs and this and the other. And all what we charge from the commercial rate then filters back into the charity to do community stuff free of charge. So if there's any community clubs out there that want to get me and Jimmy Gittins in from State of Mind, contact me via me social medias, and we'll come in and we'll do a session. Like I said, for community clubs, we'll do it free of charge. But the return on investment's incredible. But also the return on my investments, just emotionally, is fantastic. I said, Jimmy, you need to get him on. He's incredible. He won't be able to do the stairs, though, so he'll have a wheelchair.
We might go
for a little
to
while. Yeah, honestly, he's just the most inspirational bloke I've ever met in my life. He just, from what he was told all those years ago, and I've only met him from 2017, and he just amazes me. Every picture you see him, I've got pictures of him in my book, and he stands up, he pushes himself out of his wheelchair because he doesn't want the chair to define who he is. He's an injured rugby league player, but he actually needs a wheelchair to get around, but he don't want...
Yeah, that's not his identity.
That's not his identity. And it fascinates me and amazes me and inspires me on a daily basis. We argue all the time. Our most common thing we say to each other is, I disagree with you on that, Jimmy. We player, referee, totally opposite. We have different opinions. We have everything. We talk about rugby, and we said, oh, you can't do that. And it's brilliant. I have so much respect for him. If we're not working on a daily basis, we speak together on the phone, and it's just, it's very rare as somebody that in the 50s to have somebody come into your life who you genuinely is your hero. And on art, he is genuinely my hero. I get emotional thinking about it because he's just such an inspirational bloke. And going back to, things that we do, maybe if I hadn't have packed in then, maybe if I hadn't have done that, maybe I wouldn't have met Jimmy, maybe I won't be doing what I'm doing, maybe I won't be here. So wherever life takes you, if sometimes it gives you a kick in the proverbial bollocks, that doesn't have to define you. It's a part of who we are. It's a part of the tapestry of next time we're going to go up. So, just bear in there, hold on, get the right support. And it's amazing what we can achieve post what we think is the end of who we are, our identity.
Yeah.
Imagine I've got a friend, right, who has a propensity to not talk. Like how, if you could give like one tip, and you can see someone struggling, have a bad day, whatever it is, within the team, within the club or whatever, how does someone go about just teasing out a little bit of that stress that they're perhaps feeling, or, to expose some of those emotions, to make themselves a little bit vulnerable in the interest of helping them feel a bit better?
Patience and perseverance. Sometimes it's, hey, are you okay? Yeah, I'm fine. That's a stock answer, I'm fine. Or the reason why I'm asking you, I've just noticed you seem a little bit quiet. You sort of seem a little bit distant. Those runs that you're doing in the club, you don't seem to be doing them at the moment. Those tackles, is everything okay? Yeah, I'm fine. Are you sure? Yeah. If you want to talk, I'm here. And then if they don't, drop it in again, or see a difference. And just sometimes we want to change overnight and dead quick, and it can take days, it can take weeks, it can take months. But if somebody knows that you're in their corner, if somebody knows that you're looking out for them, and you say, look, you're normally the life and soul of the party. You're normally the one that takes us all out on the Raz. I have noticed it. Tell me mind my own business. But I care about you and I worry about you. And also, if the shoe was on the other foot and you notice a change in me, the type of person you are, I know that you'd be the first one phoning me up, messaging me, knocking on my door, saying, hey, what's wrong with you? I want to help. That's all I'm trying to do. I'm just trying to give you the opportunity to speak. If you don't want to speak to me, let's find somebody you can speak to. There's loads of people out there that can help. Well, that makes sense.
It definitely does. It's great advice. Do you think the tide's changing now? Do you think people like lads, lasses, rugby players, let's call them, are getting better at it?
Absolutely. Yeah, clubs and welfare officers, the culture and the environments are changing. I think social media helps, but I also think it can hinder as well. I think we can go too far the other way. And now, I've got mental health. Yeah, well, we all have mental health. Well, I've got anxiety. Yeah, anxiety is a worry, nervousness about something with an uncertain outcome. So let's make the outcome more certain. It's not fear that we're frightened of, it's a fear that we attach to fear. So let's discuss, let's talk it down, and let's try to minimise the uncertainty of the outcome. Then hopefully our anxiety will reduce a little bit. And if our anxiety can reduce a little bit, we can be back to our old self. What's our old self? My old self's different. I can't do in the gym what I used to do 30 years ago. So we're always evolving, we're always changing. Do I want to be able to run 10 kilometres in 30 odd minutes? Of course I do, but I can't because I'm 59-year-old and I'm knackered.
Right, onto your book. Obviously, yes. For anybody that's watching that wants a copy, and we highly suggest you get one or two, whatever. We'll put links in the descriptions and in the comments below. 270 odd pages here. They can't all have been easy to write. I want to know which chapters just flowed and you really enjoyed writing.
It's funny when you talk about enjoyment. Like I said, the book's called my final whistle after that last game. And I found myself getting frustrated. I found myself getting upset. I found myself getting angry. And then as it starts to flow, as I start to get more chapters, just briefly how it started was, Paul Cook, OKR legend, brilliant player, an absolutely top bloke. He sent me a signed copy of his book called Judas, read it on holiday. And I just got back to him and said, Paul, wow, what a great book. Again, if anybody's listening, buy it, it's superb. And he said, why don't you write your book? I said, who wants to read about a former field rugby league referee? He said, you'd be amazed. No referee's done it before, as far as I know, do it. It just got me thinking. A guy called Mark Chesney from OKR contacted me and said, can I write your book with you? I said, well, you can help me, but you're not writing it. These words are my words. He's edited it. He's been fantastic at, getting it to that stage. But I thought, no, they're all my words. So I just started to do chapters. I thought, right, let me start at the last game. That's the thing that defines me in how I see myself as a referee. Then I've gone through early years, like we spoke about. What was it about rugby league? What was it about going to Sheddings in those early days? Yeah. And then playing amateur rugby, and then going from amateur rugby to being a referee. And then bearing in mind I refereed 7 years in Super League part-time. So going from a part-time Super League referee, when everybody were full-time except the referee, to then going full-time. And then finishing, and then getting a career as a coach, and then having the restructure, and then Australia, New Zealand. And I talk about going to Russia. I refereed in Lebanon, for God's sake. I've had some fantastic weekends, 5 weeks in Australia, New Zealand. And then when I left the RFL, because of this restructuring, which you can read about, that hurt. That chapter really hurt. I thought the way they got rid of me was disappointing, to say the least. But I also respected that in professional sport, not every coach is the right person for the new boss coming in, and I obviously wasn't. But I had a lot of anger, and then writing it, the cathartic journey, it just felt fantastic. And emotionally I struggled at times. Loss, that's who I was. That's who I saw myself, Ian Smith, rugby league referee. And when I was no longer that, when I was no longer part of the RFL, I had no identity, I had no reason to jump out of bed in the morning. But then I realised now that there's more to Ian Smith than just that referee. That does not define who I am. It's a huge part of my life and one thing, that I loved. But that's not the old Ian Smith. So once it started to come together, like I say, I was proud, I was angry, I was bitter, I was upset, I was laughing, I was proud, so it was just an incredible journey. And it took me 10 months. And like I say, I've self-printed, self-published, done everything myself because I want to give as much money to the two charities as possible. Like I said, besides State of Mind, Parkinson's UK, the Oldham branch, my partner of 22 years, Dina, she was diagnosed with Parkinson's 2 years ago, and she's doing incredible. I'm so proud of her. She's helped me throughout my career. Are we going out on a Friday? No, I've got a game. Are we going out on a Saturday? No, I'm refereeing Sunday. She sacrificed everything. All my trips, all my things. She never once complained about the sacrifice. So now if I can give anything back to her and support her on her journey going forward, then I will. And if it means getting some money off the back of this book, absolutely fantastic. And I'm more than happy to do so.
What a great reason for everybody to go out and buy it.
I hope so.
Yeah.
And to be fair, the feedback so far has been incredibly humbling. I refereed Leeds Rhinos 84 times in my career with Rob Burrow. Just an incredible player. An incredible player, but an incredible man. Some players wouldn't always shake your hand after the game. Some would if they passed you and they won. Some would walk past you as if you were somebody they stood in. But Rob, no matter whether Leeds won, lost or draw, he would, before you walked off that pitch, he would make a beeline. Not to his teammates, not to the crowd. He would always make a beeline to shake my hand. And it was just such a respect of a man that I have, and obviously with his MND and that. So I sent his dad, Jeff, a copy of my book, and I advertised it on social media a few weeks ago. And bless him, he put, I've read it 4 times, and I really endorse it. It's one of the best reads I've ever read, and from a great man and a great referee. And I just, I didn't really know how to reply to that, because when you talk about greats, you talk about Rob Burrow, you don't talk about Ian Smith. So it was a very humbling thing, and the feedback that I've got is that it's a bloody good read, whether you're a rugby league fan or not, that it's not all about that. And even my girlfriend, she couldn't put it down. So last 3 chapters, she asked, "Where you got it?" When she was proofreading it for me, she went, "Couldn't put it down." She said, "I loved it." So that's a nice endorsement as well.
Ian, was there a chapter where you was writing in the book and it maybe it was one of them chapters you wrote and it just made you smile? It was like, that is a memory that I've not really thought about for such a long time, such a great memory. Is there any that stand out?
Oh, yeah.
I know we don't want to give away the whole book, obviously.
We don't, but
yeah.
I went to Russia in 2002, and the RFL, bless them being the RFL, I was on a plane out of Heathrow, and in the morning, the day before, I didn't have my visa, and you can't get into Russia without a visa. Yeah. So I had to queue up the morning of my flight at the Russian embassy, trying to get a visa. And there's all these people in the queue, and they're saying, when you flying? Tonight. You're joking, this takes months. No, I'm flying tonight, you've no chance. So and then I managed to get across, got it stamped, got across to Heathrow, got on the plane, refereed at the Luzhniki Stadium, going around Moscow, and just that. And then the following year, I'm in Beirut. I had a weekend in Lebanon. Obviously, you wouldn't go there now, but at the time, and it was just incredible. So as I'm writing, it just takes me back to those places and those trips. 5 weeks in Australia, New Zealand, 2 tours to South Africa. I refereed I love my NFL, my American football, and Leeds, Halifax and Huddersfield did a pre-season tournament, early 2000s. Me and Cal Kirkpatrick, who was hilarious, a brilliant ref, but an even funnier bloke. We went to Jacksonville for a week with Tony Brown and Jeff. refereeing out there.
Yeah.
You know, the opportunities as a match official, incredible. So as I'm writing all these, 80 weekends in the south of France and, you know, flying to Barcelona and getting a car and going over the Pyrenees, and then you'd referee a game, and as you were coming into Perpignan town centre at night for a bite to eat, you'd have all the away fans, come on here, hey, drunk, put this shirt on, put this scarf around you. No.
The photograph for social media coming here.
Why not? Why not? Oh, come on. No, right. So let's just think about it. If people see me in an OKR shirt, when OKR have just beaten Catalan or whatever, who are they? And then, oh, come on, you know. And it's nothing personal.
Yeah.
I'll have my photograph taken with you. I'll sign whatever you want, but I am not putting your shirt and holding your scarf up with a big smile. You know, come on. You know, but you know, people want the referees to be friendly and sociable. We're a really decent group of people.
Yeah.
You know, we like a beer. You know, we like a laugh. You know, but when it matters, you know, it's our job, it's our livelihood, and it's our integrity as well. And the one thing that if people lose the trust of the integrity of a match official, you're blowed. You're absolutely, you know, a bit like the Premier League referee, you know, saying, you know, I can tell you loads of stuff about certain coaches and certain players, but I won't do. I'll keep it, you know, I haven't even done in the book. I'll just keep it in here because it's not for, you know, it's not for public consumption. Because I don't want people to think Ian Smith's bitter and angry, you know.
But I think people will respect that, won't they? I think they want to know the ins. We want to know the gossip, of course we do. But I think they'll respect that, you know what I mean? Because that is a true indication of professionalism. Yeah. That's all you want from
To be fair,
official.
the players, 99% of the players were fantastic. Yeah, they'd want a little bit from you.
They all just want to win, don't they?
But they also want to win, and very, very few that I actually fell out with. You know, there were certain players that no referee got on with. You know, one of the greatest scrum halves of Super League era, Danny Brough, brilliant player. This is not a criticism of Danny, but he was hard work. As a referee, he was hard work because he wanted to win. Sorry, as a player, when I refed him, it was hard work. But he was captain as well. And there'd be times when you wanted to get your messages through. You know, like I talked about Kevin Sinfield, you know.
Yeah.
I can assure you Danny weren't as subtle as Kev. So, you know, he'd be, yeah, what's that for? You know, and he was very vociferous and he was... And you couldn't tell him because he either didn't want to hear or because he was so emotional and so emotively bought into that game, he won't listen. And that's not a criticism. Because he showed what he could do. You know, again,
kick a ball like
great
no other,
player and also bring others. There was a hell of a lot more to Danny Brough's game than just his vision and his boot. But he was hard work, you know. So, you know, there are other stories that I haven't talked about, but not many because the players are absolutely outstanding, you know, and a lot of respect for them. As soon as you set foot over that whitewash, oh my God, you know, it's a tough person to do that.
How many sort of conversations do you used to have with head coaches? You know, during the week, either before or after a game, does it happen often? Or
not many, to be fair. Yeah. More often than not, Stuart Cummings or the boss, who were the coach at the time, would field those from the coaches.
Oh, right.
Every now and again, he'd say, "Look, give Tony Smith a ring. He wants to have some clarification on a decision." And a couple of times where I'd phone Tony up and on review, I'd said, "I got it wrong, Tony." I said, "When I was there, from my angle, I felt it was this. On reflection, on review, I got it wrong. I read it wrong." And you know something? He'd say, "Fair play to you."
Yeah.
Fair play to you. If you'd have come on and tried to bullshit me, then I'd have had less respect. But, you know, there comes a point where all those mistakes have to have a consequence. But there are times where you've just got to put your hand up and say, you know, there were times you get home and you go, wow, that's not how it looked from my angle, with all those players around it, stood at ground level.
And it's slow-mo as well.
And, it's not in slow-mo. And I've already run 9 kilometres and I've got an average heart rate of 155 beats a minute. So, you know, it's not how it played out, you know. So sometimes, you know, the coaches would come on to us, but very rarely. Yeah. Stuart would always feel that. And same with Phil Bentham now. You know, there's no point in exposing the refs to the coaches all the time. Doesn't mean to say that shouldn't have some dialogue. But the coach will only really phone up if he's got a grievance. So, let the head coach and the boss sort that grievance out.
You've obviously got a really exciting past, and I have this belief that people that struggle sometimes are those that have got a bigger past than they have future. But talking to you today, it sounds like you've got a really exciting future now as well. So what is coming up for you in the future? Like, what's coming up over the next couple of years? What's your focus going to be on now that the book is out and that kind of thing?
Well, I think I agree with your sentiment, but I love the now. I lived in the future too much in the past. So in other words, instead of enjoying that game, it was always about, if I do this, I'll get a game next week. Instead of enjoying that now. Now, I love the now. I've got 5-year-old and 3-year-old grandsons. I want to enjoy them as a 5-year-old and 3-year-old. I don't want to go in 2 years' time when they're 5 and 8, and then they're 10, and all of a sudden you've missed that now. At this moment in time, this is great. Loving chatting with you guys. This is the now. Then when this is finished, the drive home will be the now. And then whatever happens tonight. And so I try not to look forward. I love what I do with Jimmy. Really passionate about what I do with Jimmy. I'm 59-year-old. I talk for a living and travel around with my hero. It gives me a reason to get out of bed.
Yeah.
So why would I not enjoy the now? I'm enjoying my golf. I'm enjoying training because of Dina's condition. We go to the gym 4 or 5 times a week, so I'm enjoying doing a bit of gym work, which I've never done before. So life's really good in the now, and I'm very proud of my book, very proud of what I did in the past, and I'm enjoying the now as the now stands, and we'll see what happens in the future when it becomes the now.
Okay, so I think the best way to finish, and this has been incredible chatting to you.
Yeah, it was great.
How can people get hold of the book?
Right, just it's $11.99. To do it through your Amazons and your eBays and all that lot, the commission was just ridiculous. And because I want as much of the money to go to charity as possible, you can only buy it on my social media links. So Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram. Just type in Ian Smith and Rugby League referee, and you'll find it. There's a PayPal link on there, so they can go on it. $11.99 plus £2.50 posting and packing. I have them all at home. I'm doing all the distributing. So as soon as I get it, boom, I'll post it out the following day. I've had a few people that said I don't do PayPal. If they email me at iansmith1965@yahoo.co.uk, we'll find a way of getting a payment and getting the book to you. So it's very humbling, and like I say, if people want to buy it, then please do, and let me know via my social medias what you think of it. So far, touch wood,
we will do.
It's been very, very positive. But like I said, if you can, be fantastic, and if you don't, then it's I won't take it personally.
And I'll go a little bit further there, because I know what it's like to be, when you're kind of selling something or you're doing something for a charity. I think this is well worth more than £11, and there is a process to be able to donate more and get your copy. So speak to Ian and you can do that. And you told us earlier on about someone buying a bulk set of these, and I can't think, if anybody wants to chuck a good chunk of money into the pot and support these two great charities and have a load of these to pass around to their rugby league mates or anyone that's going to enjoy it, then I'd encourage people to do that. So
yeah, can you just quickly come on that? Yeah, it was Matt Thomason, an ex-colleague, good friend, and a very, very good referee. He paid me £500 for 5 copies, so that extra money is gone on a separate column, and that will all the extras. Some people have given me £15 for me £12 book, so £3. Some give me 20. So all those little extras, all that extra money, all goes direct to the charity. None of this goes in my coffers. So any additional is really, really welcome, and I appreciate you saying that. But if you just want to pay the standard price, absolutely no quibble whatsoever. But I appreciate that, yeah.
Ian, it's been an absolute pleasure speaking to you. It was really insightful, really interesting. I'd like to wish you the best of luck for the future. Just a personal thank you from me, for driving all the way down to Wolverhampton. Not many people
Dare.
Come outside the heartlands, to speak to two Northerners in the personal studio. Look, I really appreciate you making the effort, and I've really enjoyed the chat.
Likewise. I felt absolutely privileged sat across from the table from you, and I really didn't know what to expect because, you're a uniform on the pitch, as a referee, and sometimes you do miss the fact that they're a human being. What humanised you was when you started talking about, well, that don't pay my maintenance. I was like, well, I had to pay maintenance. That's a human being across from me, and I've enjoyed every step. Everything that you said. If you could sum up your involvement in rugby league, in one word to finish, what do you think that word would be?
Well, it's not one word, but it's been an honour.